again. I'm Roxy B Rocker, your host of Talkability. And guess what this month is? This month is Disability Pride Month. That means we're going to celebrate us. Oh, it's a hard time to celebrate us, but we're still celebrating. You know, disability, I didn't ask to be born this way. I didn't ask to acquire all of them. And yet I have them. And I know I have to live with it every single day. And you know what? That's okay, because it makes me stronger. It makes me more powerful. And it gives me a voice in this world. So, I have this great company called Embracing Disability, and it's about empowerment. It's about confidence. It's about belonging. It's about being inclusive, and it's about having inclusive values. It's Pride Month, people, and we're going to celebrate Pride Month. Disability is a part of human life, every single day. And, it's about human diversity and people experiencing disabilities in different ways. And we want all people to feel prideful and connected into the community. But that doesn't mean that every single person does. And that's okay. But if you're going to be a part of my world, I really need you to understand that my world is about embracing disability, is about that empowerment, and is about making sure that people feel welcome, included, and valued in this world. And a lot of times right now, we're not feeling that way. We want to be able to access things. We want to be able to get into buildings. We want to be able to do all of the things that we can do, right? And so, how can you become a part of Disability Pride Month? Well, you can contact me. I'm Roxy B Rocker, and we can discuss being a part of Pride Month and ways that you can celebrate. And look for events in your neighborhood on ADA or Pride. I don't know why there's not a parade. Recently, I'm telling you a little bit about the news, but recently in the state of Massachusetts and some other states, they just changed the law to get rid of archaic language, including the R word. And I'm going to say the R word, and it's pretty gross. Retardation or retarded. On a Massachusetts forum, I talked about the R word and how it's important that, we get rid of this language. And they said, you're just retarded. And people are mean. And so we need to stop this meanness and this unbelievable problems that people cause. We have a lot of challenges out there and a lot of difficulties out there. But what if we could all accept one another and be included in this world? It would just be, it would be something that I would want to celebrate, because that's a milestone in itself, instead of all this negativity. And it's Disability Pride. People, and it's not even about overcoming obstacles anymore. It truly, really is about being involved and engaged in community and not being isolated. I'm here. I get to talk. I get to express myself. I get to have a voice. I get to have my own show. That's inclusion. That's it, being inclusive. And it's meaningful. In everyday life, when people ask, well, how should I talk to a person that has a disability? Or how should I interact? Why don't you just say hello and see how I'm doing today and make it natural? It doesn't have to be so much about, making sure that I'm okay, or even having concern or condescending, being, feeling sorry for me because I'm having trouble walking. Crap, I've been having trouble walking since I was a little girl. I'm 50-something years old. I'm used to it by now. You don't need to feel sorry for that. just because you're going to see me have a little bit of a limp if I'm having a bad day. And as I'm aging in place, it's starting to get worse. So just accept me that I'm going to have a little problems walking today. Or celebrate with me when it's a good day. You know, it's really a sad world when every single day we're concerned about the loss and about the milestones that we have overcome within our world, right? We've overcome so many things. And, lately, because of what's happening in the government, this disability pride is different. I feel like a piece of history is being taken away, and we're going to have to do a fight again. They're telling us to watch Crip Camp, watch things like Murder Ball, watch things like Deaf President Now on Apple. You can even watch the movie Outcome that the young man, Nicholas Nibbett, who was on our show, does a humanities celebration. Everywhere we can, we can find things on PBS, and I'm sure we can even find things on the streaming platforms that's talking about disability and giving disability education. The Ride Home, it just won. I'm going to hopefully be able to do something with The Ride Home soon because I have access to the video, and that's going to be really exciting. It won an Emmy. It won. And, for these things to actually be taking place in the winning time is so important. Disability pride is always tied to the ADA, which is the Americans with Disabilities Act. And with early pride events starting in 90, they had some parades and celebrations nationwide. In a couple of weeks, I'm going to Washington and I'll be walking in a march. My first ever march ever, not my first rally, but my first ever march. And I'm quite thrilled about it. I'm so excited. So disability pride even has a flag. Did you know that? That we have our own flag? So the flag represents disability identity, solidarity, and the rights movement, and the ongoing work to remove barriers and the stigma around disability. And how the flag got started. In 2019, a wonderful lady named Ag McGill, who has cerebral palsy, she created the flag. The first one had zigzags all over the background. But sometimes people got triggered with the zigzags because it might have had some sensory issues or even some cognitive issues that was really bothering people. So she refined the flags to make them more into stripes, muted the colors, and reordered them to accommodate all of the different kinds of disabilities. And now I'm going to tell you what all of the disabilities mean on the flag. And we will get you a copy of that flag so everybody can see it. The flag pause. So here's the flag right here. We'll get a better copy of that for you very shortly. The red represents physical disabilities. The gold represents neurodiversity. White is invisible disabilities and undiagnosed conditions. Blue is emotional and psychiatric disabilities. Green is sensory, including deafness, blindness, and other sensory disabilities. This one breaks my heart, but all breaks my heart in many ways. Faded background is the mourning and the rage for victims of ableist violence and abuse. See how big the black is? We don't want to think that people with disabilities have been harmed. Why would somebody want to harm people with disabilities? But the government is harming people every day right now. We're going to get into that. You know, there's family members that are helping people with disabilities, that are in their homes every single day doing caregiving roles and helping people. And, you know, you could be an educator, you could be an employer, a neighbor, and here are practical ways to celebrate and support inclusion in your area. Go find an event, learn directly from lived experience. We talked about saying hello, watching movies, follow people on social media. You can always see what I'm saying on my page, Roxy B Rocker. Don't use our outdated language like handicap, disabled. Use the words person with a disability, someone who's a wheelchair user. They are not wheelchair bound or home bound. Nobody's bound to anything. So use language that could be really beneficial. And if you're questioning it, please ask. If you call upon your elected officials in your state, please help them talk about Medicaid, Olmstead Act, special education, and disability rights. And tell them that our rights are human rights and we deserve dignity and respect and equality. There are many organizations that you can kind of reach out to. And all of us need a little bit of help and a little bit of work, a little bit of support along the way. Some of the things that I do in my company is this show, Disability Education. I want people to write for my magazine. And I make clothes that are accessible and adaptable. In the future, I really want an adaptable loan closet. This month is really, really the hardest because there's many matters that need to be talked about. And in 2 weeks, I'm heading to this conference called National Council on Independent Living. And all around the state is places and organizations that are all about independent living movement. And they're called independent living centers. When you hear the independent living movement, some of the misconception is that you're going to go into an independent living home. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about being involved with an independent living center who's fighting and helping you support your rights around disability. That's all that it is. And guess what? There are free services available to you as long as you have a disability. You don't even need to have a documentation. You can call them and say, hi, I have a disability and I would like to talk. Or I'd like to get help with X and X and X. Housing, peer mentorship, youth leadership, youth programs, employment programs, personal care attendant programs, all of these things that help people with disabilities do independent living, right? So we're not asking you to go to an independent living center so you can go live. We're asking you to find out how you can independently live more freely. Yeah. And there's a official organization that I would say really does most of the work in disability rights. So I'm a person with a lived experience, and, we're really learning how to do all of this, and we're really trying to understand what is the most important part for our lives right now. A lot of the theme around independent living is nothing about us without us. This year's theme of Disability Pride is the world works better with us. Could you imagine a world without people with disabilities and their advocacy? It would be a crazy world. We're learning about disability history. Now, I'm going to give you a small history lesson. And inside that small history lesson, there was a law that happened in 1999. And that law was called Olmsted versus LC. The Supreme Court sided with two women, Lois Curtis and Elaine Wilson. They both lived in institutional settings. However, they didn't want to live there. Who would? Why would you want to be trapped in a building that's not supportive of you? Why wouldn't you want to hear music? Why wouldn't you want to have your own show? Why wouldn't you want to hold somebody's hand instead being locked up in some building somewhere? Ugh. The Supreme Court decided that disability people should not live in segregated settings. Disability people should live in the least restricted setting that supports their needs. And Olmsted affirmed the decision, and the mandate of the Americans with Disabilities Act transformed how to get people home and in community services. We celebrate this important anniversary and information. 27 years. Very exciting. Now, here's the issue, and here's the problem. So 27 years ago, this great rule passed, and now there's all these community programs that are happening out there in the world. Day programs, people being able to go out and do things. Sometimes they have enclaves, which is a work group where they're cleaning, building, making, and getting things established in community. Okay, now we're going to take a deep breath, and we're going to do some somatic work for a minute because this is going to be stressful. So I'm going to take a deep breath with you. So in June, there was a direct attack on this. And now, before I get into the direct attack, we are going to go for a word with our sponsor. So we'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back. All right, so this is the big thing that we got to talk about because this isn't good. So in June, late June, not very long ago, almost 2 weeks ago, the Department of Justice made what they call a slip opinion. Now, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know. But the Office of Legal Counsel to the President of the United States, Mr. Trump, I'm not getting political on here, made a slip opinion that the fundamental and universal principle of disability rights and disability justice has been the right to live in community, and rather than being placed in institutions like we were talking about. But now they're talking about this law and the protected rights of individuals to be able to receive services and live in their home and avoid institutions, um, is now under attack. And they're making changes to Medicaid, where a lot of the home services come from this, and this is really important. So it's an assertion that public entities are not legally required to treat people with disabilities in the most integrated sessions appropriate for their needs, conflicts with establishment, federal court precedent, and the position of several former presidential administrations, both Republican and Democrat. The opinion is an affront to people with disabilities and their families. So, okay, I'm not a lawyer, but in layman's terms, that means that at any moment, a law could possibly be built or changed that says that people like me, almost any of the people, could lose their services, could go to the doctor, could go into an ER, and all of a sudden be told that we can't really be in society anymore. Could happen. Has not happened yet, but it could. And a lot of the things that are happening right now are taking away rules, taking away laws, in order to get Medicare, from the states. Now they're saying that you have to work. Well, a lot of people can't work because they have disability children at home, or adult children or adults who may be very childlike because of their age, and that they're at home and they're taking care of their child and they're not able to go to work, or the work requirements where you're caregiving for someone, or you have such a disability where you can't really be employed. Now, the opinion of the legal counsel did not change the law, but it does bind agencies, saying that it could overturn it and it can signal the administration to take away these critical protections and programs that we have been utilizing for years. It's devastating. And I'm going to tell you right now that I don't have the answers. I'm reporting to you what is happening right now, that things are getting lost, people are losing services, and things are challenging for multiple families, people with disabilities. And we don't know how it's going to be affected. I'm very curious when I go to this conference in July, what we're going to be talking about, what we're going to be fighting for, how we're going to be needing to talk to Capitol Hill, because one of the goals that we're going to have when we go down there is we're going to actually get to do the walk, and we're going to go on Capitol Hill. Now, this is the original walk from the ADA that they couldn't access buildings, so they climbed the steps and they all poured out of their wheelchairs and they climbed the steps of Capitol Hill so they could prove that we need access. So for more than 30 years, there was protections by the Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act, and in 1990, the Americans with Disabilities Act. Now, let me tell you about the Section 504. This law, for me personally, has saved my life. It got me my driver's license. It got me college education. It got me my massage license. It got me my career. And it got me a lot of things. So 504 makes sure that people can go to school and people can get services and resources that they need in community. And the ADA and this Olmstead Act gave rights to people with disabilities. So if you needed extra care, extra services, and being active in the community, you're able to do that. All of these are foundational civil rights. But see, the problem is in the world of disability, is a lot of people fight for civil rights. But it's the only law that we still have to fight to get the law even done. We have to fight to get the law even to be heard. And people violate the law all the time. I'm having an ADA party, and it's that birthday party idea of that Down syndrome child that you're trying to say, hey, I'm having an event and I want people to attend. And a lot of times people don't even want to attend. They don't even buy a ticket. They don't even reach out and ask. They're just kind of like, whatever. Doesn't bother me. I don't really think I should go to an ADA party, but you should, because you need to know about these laws, these rules. And I cannot wait to absorb I'm an advocate. I've been doing this work for years, but I cannot wait to go back to Washington, where I haven't been in a long time, and absorb as much information as I can and learn from all these advocates that have also been doing the work longer than I have. You know, but we want people to remain in society. We want people to have their ability to live in their own home, to, not have to go to an institution or a group home. And a lot of times when they do go to institutions or they do go to group homes, you know what happens? They're hurt. Sometimes they're even raped. It's very unfortunate how that, they're harmed. They're abused, they're talked down to. Sometimes they're not even allowed to be out of the house. And contrary to these concepts and these ideas, and that we want everybody to stay at home, it's a little bit unknown right now. Now here's the situation. A lot of this came out because they were talking about people with mental health issues and homelessness, and that now they just belong in an institution. I don't agree with that either. People need to be rehabilitated. People need to be able to have access and get empowered. So we're going to take away everything. How are we going to empower the world? So we're taking so many steps back from all of the things that happened in 1973, 1990, and 1999. We're taking steps back. And hopefully we will be able to take more steps forward. And the more with us, the more people who can ally with us, join forces with us, and be an inclusion, the more we're going to be able to make these changes and actually have these rights not taken away. And more people need to bang on the doors of the government and talk about how they're harming the most vulnerable of adults out there. It doesn't matter if they have a severe disability. It doesn't matter if they have a mental health disability, a hidden disability, that they are hard of hearing, that they are deaf, that they are autistic. It doesn't matter. We matter. We matter in this world. We matter to have dignity, and we matter so we can exist and coexist, but we should not be hidden. And I cannot understand how a government and human beings think that being hidden is okay and safe. Now, stay tuned, because again, this is going to air this is airing on July 11th. We're talking about the issues. We're talking about disability pride. We're talking about a cohesive world where maybe we can all exist, but there are problems. Now, let me tell you, on July 25th, we'll be talking about this again, about the ADA, about a group of advocates who are coming together to fight for the same battles, to talk about the same issues. And I am so blessed that the statewide Independent Living Council is paying my way, so I get to be in that room during a time of history where this is going to be continued. And if you have questions, I need you to reach out. I'm Roxy Rocker, Roxy at embracing-disability.com. So stay tuned, because more to come. But if you have questions, or you want to write, or you want to talk to me, this is the time that we need to do it. I thank you so much for tuning in for this important episode of Talkability, where we were chatting around disability issues, which are very severe right now. And we are chatting around the Olmstead, the ADA, and Disability Pride Month. I am your host, Roxy B. Rocker of Talkability. And don't worry, we have more coming very soon. I'll be live in Washington in just a couple of weeks. Have a great day, everyone, and I hope your 4th was beautiful. Let's keep inclusion on the forefront, and let's be cohesive in this world where we're together and not against one another. I love you all so much. Have a beautiful day.